My name is Linda Gupta, and I'm here to remember my father, Garst, Dr. Ronald Garst. He's an orthopedic surgeon. Well, from what I remember, he was in India, the war broke out, and his first reaction was that he must come to Bangladesh to try and help the war wounded. So he first arrived here by himself, just coming over to look around and see if there was anything he thought he could do. And he was introduced to the war-wounded Muktijuddho, the veterans. And from that time, then he went back to India and established what he wanted to do, resigned from what he was doing in India, and gathered some funds together and came here. The government of Bangladesh gave him these buildings to get started in. And from the onset, I don't exactly remember the exact details, but from February 28, 1972, from there on he lived here and established the program. When he got here, he learned that there was only one other orthopedic surgeon in the whole country. And he went to Dhaka Medical College and looked up the orthopedic department, and that turned out to be Dr. Swadhinota Shammanona. And so he spoke to him about what he wanted to do, and they helped him get enough of an area together where he could start treating, clinics-wise, start treating patients. And then they discovered that there was a need for even more. And at each turning, there was a new discovery that there still needs to be more. First, it was more patients, civilian patients, then a need to train orthopedic doctors, and it was always his dream, wherever he was in the world, to make it possible for somebody else to take over in that capacity, to run the programs. And so he started then training orthopedic surgeons too, also because they needed their help to treat all those patients. He would start just a small clinic, and he left my mom in Delhi because he was just going to come for that short time. And then he went back to Delhi, and there some Americans persuaded him to talk about the cause of what was happening in Bangladesh. And he talked to he gave a talk in church the next morning. It was a Sunday morning. And there and then people stood up and came up to him and said, we will give you this, we will give you that, we will volunteer, we will send 3 volunteers from our organization. And from that it grew. And then he actually even ran into someone who said, I have a 200-bed hospital, which is in Cartons. If you want that hospital, you can have that hospital. So when he got back to Bangladesh, that was the news that he brought with him, that he had funds, he had beds, he had support to build a hospital. And at some point, Sirajul Islam took him to meet Abu Said Chowdhury and people like that, and then they put the project into place. And funds started pouring in from all over the world. So once the funds started pouring in, he realized at that point that he was thinking too small. It was always my belief that there is no good war. So the injured is what he was really interested in. The humanitarianism, he was not a politician, he was not an activist, so he knew that he could not change the course of time that way. But what he could do was to be a humanitarian. And so his calling was always towards helping the people who were injured. And then when he started seeing that civilians also needed help and support, and the fact that there was only one orthopedic surgeon for this country, that's what really swayed him to organize the hospitals.